I always consider my work one piece, whether it be with Beatles, David Bowie, Elton John, Yoko Ono, and I consider that my work won't be finished until I'm dead and buried, and I hope that's a long, long time.
So long ago.
Every pop rock musician now owes something to Lennon.
You know, he wasn't just a musician. He was a political figure, and he was a campaigner and a preacher and a poet and an artist. He was many, many things.
John Lennon really was my major really sort of impetus originally to be a guitar playing, singing guy.
It seems so real.
You can shine your shoes and wear a suit. You can comb your hair, look quite cute.
I felt that everyone was real strong tonight. It was a, array of different styles approaching John Lennon.
Is when you crippled inside.
This is actually the longest running Lennon tribute in the world, and I, for one, am very proud to keep the tradition going, along with the rest of the company and everyone here tonight.
I was really impressed by the diversity of the show. It wasn't just a bunch of singer-songwriters. He had comedy and dance.
I know there are a lot of Lennon tributes all over the world, but I'd be very surprised if there's one quite like this that brings together musicians and dancers and actors, all these performing artists from different genres. I don't even know of any show like it, where you see a stand-up comedian and a modern dancer followed by a singer-songwriter in the same show. I think it's a pretty unique event, even if it wasn't about John.
If the Vatican really thought that John Lennon was in need of forgiveness, what took him so long? Why didn't they forgive him sooner? Why did they wait? Jesus would not have waited. If Jesus thought you needed forgiveness, he wouldn't say, let me think about it. Get back to you in 42 years.
I related to John's sense of humor and his sense of he didn't relate to authority figures in the same way I don't. And I love the fact that he went out on a limb and did all kinds of crazy stuff. The bed-ins and the eating chocolate cake in the bag. And he used his celebrity power to do really good things.
Everybody plays together, because everybody knows the Beatles. They know the lyrics. They may not know all the Beatles chords, the John Lennon chords, but it's kind of rock and roll heaven.
The spirit and the energy backstage is very apparent, and it's not a grieving situation. It's a celebration.
Let me take you down, 'cause I'm going to Strawberry Fields. Yes. Nothing is real. There's nothing to pops to get on about. Strawberry fields forever.
I would much rather this not be necessary, but it feels like it is necessary, so.
Hey, you got to hide your love away.
This is the 28th anniversary of his death. Now, that's not something to commemorate. We're really commemorating his life and his music. But this, you have to remember, the very first of these shows happened 28 years ago, the actual year Lennon was killed. It was an immediate need to get together and and commemorate his music and his life and just be together. I mean, everybody of our generation knows where they were when Lennon was killed.
The night John was shot was December 8th, 1980, a little after 11 o'clock. That Monday night, I was driving a taxi, and I had a very unusual radio that was AM/FM, but also had a television band. Well, I was in Queens. I was on Queens Boulevard. I was heading west. I just dropped someone off. I was listening to Monday Night Football.
Remember, this is just a football game, no matter who wins or loses. An unspeakable tragedy confirmed to us by ABC News in New York City. John Lennon, outside of his apartment building on the west side of New York City, the most famous perhaps of all of the Beatles, shot twice in the back, rushed to Roosevelt Hospital, dead on arrival.
If you were to get bad news, you would not want to get the bad news from Howard Cosell. I just remember almost going black. I'm at the wheel. I knew I had to go back to the city. I had to return my cab, and then I just decided to go to the Dakota. I didn't know there were going to be hundreds of people there when I guess I got there about 12:15 or 12:30. I didn't know. I had no idea.
Dozens, perhaps even hundreds of people have now gathered outside the Dakota House, which is where John Lennon lived.
I was part of that throng, that instinctive outpouring of sorrow that night, standing out there in the cold.
I just told these people here I feel like the 80s have begun.
And that night, we didn't know it. There was no way we could have known. But the seeds of the annual Lennon tribute were planted that night.
You had me, but I never had you.
You don't find events like this in New York much anymore, or on this level. You know, and I'm a big fan of Richard Barone and Maura Kennedy, and especially Rosanne Cash.
When I wake up early in the morning, I lift my head, and I'm still yawning when I'm in the middle of a dream. I stay in bed, I float upstream.
Yoko did not find out about this event until its 24th year. I think that what Yoko liked was that she could tell immediately and intuitively that this was a grassroots event, that this was not an event about capitalizing on John or exploiting John in any way, that this was an event produced and staged by people who loved John and were doing something that not only remembered him and honored him, but was in the truest Lennon spirit, something that was for a cause bigger than us. The musicians, they intuitively get it. John Lennon is the headliner.
I was president of my Beatles fan club when I was 11 years old.
Brian, it's your turn. Sing it.
It's not often that you can actually feel, you know what, if I wasn't performing on this show, I'd want a ticket to it.
I think it's an all-for-one thing that you don't see.
I can't think of a better way to celebrate his life and his legacy with music and with, for a really, really good cause.
Hold me, love me, hold me, love me. I ain't got nothing but love me. 8 days a week.
Artists must reflect what we all are. That's what it's about. The thing the 60s did was show us the possibility and the responsibility that we all had. Because it's still up to us to make what we can of it. It's not out of our control. While there's life, there's hope.